Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for Naked and Unafraid, a live interview with Derek. You may know Derek from his active participation in the community of Carnegie, and many of you may even see him as a client at his and his husband Gonzal's salon, Queens Rising. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Carmen. I do the social media for Derek and Gonzal, for their salon, and for their legendary Queens showcase. Tonight we will dig deep as Derek tells us about some of the worst moments of his life, how he got through them, and what comes next. I must warn you, parts of this live will be very emotional. There will be tears and talk of sexual abuse. But there will also be laughter, joy, and inspiration. We hope to open a much-needed dialogue around sexual abuse and inspire survivors to keep going, because so much beauty and love awaits you in this life. So strap in, grab your favorite drinks, snacks, and most definitely tissues, and join me in sharing the love with Derek. Feel free to leave some comments and questions, as we will be opening up the interview at the end for audience questions. Hi, Derek. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good. Happy to be here with you. I'm happy that you asked me to do this.
And I'm happy you're doing it.
All right. So I think we'll just start off with something kind of easy. I know a lot of people know this about you, that you are a retired female impersonator. I would love to hear how you got into female impersonation.
Oh, okay. So, well, I'll start by, I was 18, and I was, which I'm sure that we'll get into this a little deeper later on in the interview, but I was going through some things at the time of my life, and was hopping from friend's house to friend's house at that time. And I had stumbled across a club called Pegasus. And at the time, I was newly dating somebody that had been an entertainer there. And so I was invited to go and see it, and they happened to have a drag show that night. And I fell madly in love with the art form. In that moment, at that age, it's hard to explain, right? Because when you're emotional about things, you're internalizing that emotion, how that feels. And at that time in my life, I didn't really have much purpose, or I didn't feel much purpose in my life at the time. So I really, really wanted to feel and belong to something, anything. And it was a community base. Of course, female impersonation has its issues and its drama, just like any other art form, right? We are extremely emotional creatures, artists specifically, and so our vocabulary is different, right? But as a whole, a community of those and others like me that were struggling in life, and the camaraderie that brought us together, it was beautiful. I think I fell more in love with that part of it at the time. And so I was asked to run for Miss Teen Pittsburgh, and which is now known as Miss Gay Teen Pittsburgh, if they still have it. I honestly don't even know if they have it anymore. But at the time, I was not doing drag. Queen by the name of You Need to Die For You had a substantial wardrobe. She was known for her Madonna impersonation. And she asked me, she said, I'll give you a bunch of stuff. If you run, they're going to cancel the pageant. And so I said, okay. I said, I'll do it. Literally, what the hell? So my entry fee was.
You're saying you had never performed?
No.
Before
that night. Not in female impersonation. I've been on stage in high school and done things.
So you were in your element.
But it was the first time in an element that, yes, I was in my element. But it was a craving on the stage in that moment. It's something anybody who loves the stage and loves creating art in a visual for another human can understand what I mean by the obsession in that. It's addictive. It's addictive in the most beautiful way. And so I did it, and long story short, I ended up winning. And I was obsessed with Celine Dion, so my talent was a solo performance, and I lip synced to Celine Dion. And I didn't even look like Celine, nothing like that. But what I realized that what I fell in love with more than the costuming or the stage was the emotion behind the performance. That you can bring somebody in and educate them and teach them, give them knowledge and empathy community and a performance, right? It's a way to showcase art and bring unity without talking about politics of it all. And that's what I loved. I loved showcasing that, and then I let my career start to build from that moment. So that's how I started. Yes.
So once you got started and into the life, who would you say were, or even still are, some of your biggest influences in that community? Personally known, not personally known? Do you have anybody that stands out that you really feel like holds you into it more, and like that you shine more?
If you would have asked me that question several years ago, I would have said a bunch of names. Now, as I've grown, right, and just life, you mature, relationships that you thought what they were weren't really what they were at the time. And I have a few for sure. Coco Van Cartier, which is also known as Veronica. I won't put her last name out there for just for protective reasons. But she is very much a fluid and active woman in the community, LGBT community. She is a transgender woman. She has been that ever since I have known her. And of course, I believe, I don't put my feelings on this, but I do believe that she was born that way. And so I've known Coco no other way, but just as Coco being her stage performer. That's her facade on stage. But then there's Veronica, who is this everyday loving woman, Mexican woman, that was approached to me in a time in my life that I really desperately needed some type of figure, but not for drag. And that's why I said it's kind of a mix for me, because I created my own persona. I really was my own voice for drag. I learned to sew and create costuming, and my partner at the time, not Marcel, but years ago, Tommy, he learned to solder jewelry, and I wanted to create my own entity. When you're told that you're not worthy enough for so long in your life, and that you're not capable of quality, right, because of my personal path in life, it made me feel more ambitious to achieve that greatness on my Coco being the most influential in my drag as far as helping me on a path. She was dressing me, taking me, helping me, and guide me in creating a craft that was a little bit more of perfection for me when it came to the pageantry. But she bled into my life much more as a second mother in my life, and as a role model and figure, not just navigating being gay, but just feeling emotion from a human that unapologetically loves you. And that yes, it's family, and yes, that it's that you're going to have issues, but that's every family. But I'm a huge advocate for a chosen family just as much as I am a biological, because it's important to have those that love you at that depth. So Coco Van Cartier, mentors in my career back whenever I was growing up, Erica Andrews, she's no longer with us. Although I didn't have a personal relationship with her, she was somebody that, like we admire A-listers, or I'm a super fan of Celine Dion. Erica Andrews, as many were, huge fan of her. She was so beautiful and statuesque, but yet with a little twist of drag. And she was transgendered at all, also. And I loved that. I loved how she was confident to paint that way. And so, I admire people like her. Mimi Marks, who was at the show, as you know, last year, was somebody I, when I say looked up to, I admired their craft. There's really so many. There's too many, but I have very few that have changed and transitioned my life the way that they did. And I do give a lot of that to Coco, which will also be in the show again this year, and who was also in the show last year. She also inspired me in pageantry, because she is a former Miss Continental Plus. She is a former Miss Renaissance. And she's a former Miss, I could say this wrong, but Las Vegas, something in that. And of course, she's been influential in dressing and doing hair and makeup for many of the national entertainers and many formers of the national titles. So that was really where she inspired me. in the pageantry world. So I hope that answers your question for that.
Honestly, the fact that there's so many that you can't name them all just tells me how beautiful and loving the community is. That
Absolutely.
you just have inspiration and admiration going in so many places.
Yeah, and as many people know that are new in my life, since I've retired, that didn't experience that part of me, that did get to see me come out of retirement last year, it's still something that I still honor and I cherish. Because I wouldn't be who I am. That was such a big part of me and a piece of me, and it helped me grow, and it helped me heal with other things going on in my life. So even though I retired for reasons that I felt were necessary, it is something that I would never change in my life. And no matter who agrees with it or not, at the end of the day, I wasn't hurting anybody, and it was a beautiful art, and it was something that I love to do. And I think that we should all love and show just appreciation and admiration to those that have the guts to do that to begin with.
I agree.
Because it's just art. That's all it is. It's just art. No one's harming anybody. And so, even though I'm retired once a year, I like to remind people.
So how long were you retired before you decided to come out of retirement?
2016.
Okay.
And then was my last year, end of 2015, beginning of 2016. I was in Florida at the time, and that was my last. I had literally sold everything. Most of it I actually sold to a bar owner that was going to rent a lot of my costumes out to the girls, and some they had the option to buy.
Yeah.
And I was done. And then, of course, going into 2024, we had the event. So almost 10 years that I had not stepped foot on stage, let alone been dressed up in female impersonation.
What made you want to come out of retirement? Was there any driving force or any specific event that made you think, I want to do this just one time?
Yes, and I'm gonna say this because and I know that the younger kiddies, and I'm sorry for all of those out there. I'm sorry to all of you, because I know how much you love and admire RuPaul's Drag Race, and for many reasons, it should. It created an international platform for female impersonators to be seen, heard, loved, admired, right, and to see the art behind it. But the reality is it's a reality TV show. It's a show that is filmed and created to adapt to the like minds of what we want to see, what we want to hear, what outfits we want to see, the artists that are the judges on it. We've watched enough reality to know that it is created and made and designed for sales, right? Yeah. And although the art form is there, although the creativity is there, although all of these girls that have been placed on that show in every right have done the time, the hard work, they put in the dedication, and they deserve everything they're getting. So as I support them, I felt that people that I admired, looked up to, and loved that were changing lives in the community were not being seen the same way they deserve. They weren't being paid the way that they deserve to be paid. They weren't being supported and loved by the bar owners that they were performing at. They would pay these girls $250 to $300 that have been bringing crowds into these establishments for years, and then they hire one of the girls from RuPaul's Drag Race. They're making quite a few. I mean, listen, I can't be specific, but some of these girls are making up to $10,000, $15,000 based on marketing stuff, and these have to be paid by somebody. And so these girls were coming in, performing next to these entertainers, and making that amount of money versus that. And these are your diehard girls and impersonators that have been loyal to those cities, those townships, the boroughs, states, traveling across, spending thousands of dollars on competitions and pageantry, investing in that. And I just didn't see that their value was being supported and appreciated the way that we value the RuPaul girls. And again, I believe that the platform is important for RuPaul, but if you're going to treat one group of people, then you should be treating and admiring everybody that has earned that legendary status. Yeah. Which was why I came out of retirement, because I wanted to create an event and a show that not only showcased amazing talent and production with an intermix of equality with dancers and singers and actors and female impersonators. But aside from bringing them all together, I wanted to showcase what these legends are and how incredible they are at female impersonation. And the years of experience, there is no camera, there's no cutting, there's no, you have this much time to get this done and then we film and shoot. It is somebody going on live in front of patrons that have every right to judge in any way they want. And they go out every single night, 5 nights a week, and they perform, sometimes 7, based on whatever's going on. And they do it over and over again, making much less. And that's why I wanted to bring the light to show people that as you revere and admire RuPaul's Drag Race, as I do and respect, don't forget about those that have even brought that to the forefront. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to celebrate our community in a positive way. And the second reason for the event is because the temperature. Reminding people of taking out all of the complications of what you're reading in the news. Frankly, stop listening to what anybody has to say, because your own heart and mind are valued and appreciated. And 9 times out of 10, your heart and your mind are giving you a better answer than anything on television. And so I wanted to create a platform that if you really want to know what this is about and what this community is about and what we serve and the allies that are a part of it and loving humanity, not just gay, straight, bi, non-binary, but I'm about celebrating humans and human love and compassion within one another and stop creating the labels. And doing the show, I'm inviting you to come and see what it's about for yourself. So then you can make a determination on what the community offers.
Of course. Did you have any hesitations deciding to do the show again this year with just the current climate of things? Did you have any qualms about that?
I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. Guys, I apologize, but I'm looking here to make sure. It is for silence. No, you can just put it back. I'm sorry, guys. See, this is live, authentic. That's why I was saying that.
Okay.
Because
it's fine.
It's being, people are having to, it keeps changing on them on the phones when they're watching. Anyways, go ahead.
Okay. Did you have any hesitations putting on the show this year?
Yes,
the current climate?
I did.
And what were they? What were your fears or hesitations?
For me, when it came to the event, and again, in transparency and authenticity, we had such an amazing high from the show back in St. Patrick's Day in 2024. And then the temperature of our world started to become reality, I think, for a lot of people. And although I don't want to make this a political interview, it's kind of the world that we're living in right now. And we are being trained to just become numb to it. And what I mean by that is by saying that why we took so long to decide to do it is because I was one of them. I was becoming numb to the point of, we don't need it. People aren't going to come support it. They aren't going to buy tickets. Me and Boncel, my husband, are going to be out thousands of dollars in this event. And at the end of the day, it's just me and him that have to deal with that. And that, it seems like people don't know which side of the line to cross. And because of that, they're alienating themselves. And I didn't know. Are we going to be targets? Are our patrons, when they come, are they going to feel safe being at an event like this? Because there's so much physical hate being attached to our community yet again. I thought that we were past that, and obviously we are not. And then seeing that our country and our community is attacking pretty much everybody except for the 1%. And I hate to say that, but that's really what it is. And in that 1%, they look a lot like me. They just happen to be straight. And because I'm a white man that lives in the United States of America, and I can acknowledge and see the privileges that I have that others do not, even as a gay man. But I have other privileges that don't. I have more privileges than my husband, who is black and mixed with all these beautiful characteristics of his blood, but he faces challenges more than me in other ways, and so I decided that's not the person I am, and that we have to do the show. If we sell 45 tickets and me and Bonsell are out $10,000, it's about doing the right thing. Case in point, why me and Bonsell aren't loaded and have a bunch of money, because people who don't have a lot of money are the ones that tend to be the ones giving. Not to negate from people that do, because there are.
Yeah.
But people that struggle, people that feel real pain in everyday life, people like me, you, Bonsell, probably 90% of people that will tune into this event and watch this live have felt real life struggles. And so I decided to do the show for them, because whether we sell out, which by all means, please buy your tickets, because I would love to, not just for the reason of selling out, but obviously spreading the love, because it is an event that nobody wants to miss in this, and because of a cause that we are obviously going to be getting into with the foundation and the nonprofit. So ultimately, the reason for deciding is because I had to. You know, there's a scene actually in one of my performances that will be at the show. I'm in Wonder Woman, and we all love Wonder Woman. And she's talking to her mom about leaving. And her mom says, if you leave, you won't be able to come back. And she says, if I don't go and I don't make this decision to help humankind, who will I be? And what will I be? And that's such a powerful moment, because what she's saying is, I'm willing to sacrifice my day and my family, where I come from, and everything to help strangers, to help people that don't even know who I am. But they don't have a voice for themselves, and somebody needs to speak up for them. And that's the only way we're going to change, because the reality is, right now, it does not look like our government is. It doesn't look like the billionaires and the multi-billionaires are going to change that. So we have to do that. We have to step into the light, and we have to make the change.
There's no hiding.
And that's where the power is. And we've seen that in history time and time again. Within LGBT, the Black community, I mean, you know, every walk of ethnicity, at some point in time, we have seen horrible things done. And they've survived, not because of the higher people that were supposed to be providing care for them, but their very own community came out and saved one another. And right now, we are being taught that we should not be there for one another, that we should look at one group of people and one being, but they're not there for us. And they have not been for very long. And so this is my way to be there for my community. And that's why I said to Bonsell, and there were a lot more risks taken this year, but I don't regret it anymore. At first, if I'm going to be honest and transparent, yes, I did have reservations. There was even talks about cancellation at one point, even after we had announced it, because pre-sales and all that stuff. But that's not who I am. That's not who my husband is. And when we put our foot in something, no matter what, we follow through 150%, no matter what the outcome is. And so that's why we ended up deciding to do the show again this year.
Amazing. So you mentioned your new foundation. I would like to get into that a little bit. For those of you who don't know, the foundation name is With Love from Susie. Can you tell us a little bit about the foundation and what it stands for?
Yes. So to go back just a little bit, the foundation, or I should say really nonprofit, and I've been learning a lot in this as well.
Amazing.
So I want to be specific on that. Zeus is and was the change and the really basis and foundation of my life. For those of people that don't know, and I know that you know that Zeus was my pug, and somebody. In a time that I had really no hope and some of the darkest points in my life, I had chosen to give it in. And I wasn't in a place in my life at the time that I probably should have gotten any of them. But I had been told by a couple of friends that were counselors that I should try it, and that I was a very deeply emotional human, and because of that, they had known of people that have gone through similar things that I had been through in life, and that had been in a dark time that I had been, that getting a dog had literally saved their life. So I was like, well, I have nothing to lose. So I took what very little money I had left, and I had purchased him, and I had bought him, and I was in the middle of another my first big physically abusive relationship. He had bipolar and some other things, and I being so weak, and I'm going to use that word because that's how I felt. Not that I was weak, that's how I felt in the time. And I was so young still. I had to start adulting in life at a very young age. And so my adulthood crept up differently than it did with others because my life had been so chaotic for so long. And I got Zeus, and it was an instant connection of and a depth of love that I can't explain, other than through my emotion. But my life instantly, I felt as though I needed to change for it. Now, in the process of getting him, as we all say, how we all have demons in our life and in our past and things like that. As my life started to get better, things that I had experienced in my past that I chose to ignore because I didn't have the strength to deal with them, started creeping up on me. And when everybody again started isolating me out of their life, and I felt yet again that people that were surrounding me were people that were using me, hurting me, taking advantage of the fact that I was already a vulnerable human, but yet a human that possessed amazing love for others. And I struggled to find the worst in people even when I was dealing with the worst in humans. But every day, no matter how bad life was, I would come home and Zeus was there for me. He loved me. He covered me when I was crying, when I was laughing. He helped guide me on who to date and not to date. And I know that sounds crazy. People were like, well, how does he talk? Trust me, we had our language. And we knew how to communicate deeply. And anybody that knew us knew that. I lost him into something. And Gonçalo, my husband, says that I started dealing with that trauma a couple of years before he passed away. As he started to get older, I felt like, I said to him one time, but I said, I feel like I'm losing my mother and my life partner at the same time. Because he had protected me so maternally, like a parent, but yet he supported me, loved me unconditionally, as any human's partner should adore their life partner. And in so many times that people had created so much damage in my life, he was the constant. And no matter what, homelessness or hopping from one apartment to another, sleeping on individuals' couches, or going to the hospital for abuse or violence, he was always there, no matter what. And so I wanted to honor him somehow. And as he was diagnosed with hip dysplasia, and I became a little psychotic over it. Not in a bad way, just I was so determined to find a cure for something that just wasn't feasible at the time. I had taken him to every doctor. I didn't pay bills to take care of him at one point. I said at one point to Gonçalo, I said, I want you to know that I would allow us to lose everything to take care of him. And I was so honest with Gonçalo because I had to be, because that's how I felt. And I was willing to put myself in financial burden for him. I was willing to put myself through stress, anxiety, because he had done so much for me. He had saved my life, not just in emotional and mental, but physical ways. And I owed that to him, just as I was raised to do that for your loved are there for you unconditionally, no matter what. You reciprocate. And although he didn't speak, and he didn't have two legs, and he didn't work, and he didn't bring home the bacon, right, per se, he did way more than until Boncel, any human being. And I say that with great admiration and love and people in my life that I have in my life now that I did, and I always have had in my life since I've been born. But humans are flawed, and we know that, and humans will always hurt each other. It's the why and the it's really the why and the empathy of understanding so we can forgive. But animals, it's very rare that you find a story or situation that animals harmed the human that they loved unless it was for survival or because they were taught. Yeah. And I think that animals should be loved and revered way more than we treat them. They deserve it. Sometimes, I mean, I could name you more dogs that deserve it than humans on the list that I know. Although all humans deserve love, there is a different type of empathy that we show animals, and we need to learn to do better on that. Because I'm literally standing here today because of that for baby, and I struggle every day. I've become a different person. And I've learned through my life with other trauma, other situations that I've been through that I want to use that for strength. And I've learned triggers and things because of what I've been through that I can make a decision in my trauma, in my past. I've gone down darker paths whenever I've been in pain because that was how I was used to dealing with that. And I was getting into a dark place again after losing him. And so I said to myself, I've been wanting to do a nonprofit for a while, as you know. And he said, I know. And I said, I told you that it needed to be the right time. And although I don't really, I'm learning. And when I say I know nothing about nonprofits, I didn't go to college for it. It's not my degree. But I said to myself, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it'll be a success because that's how passionate. Okay.
You have a drive.
Yes, because I have seen something that works and that helps and can help, specifically through the sexual assault. Because I know that we need to move on. I'm sorry, I keep going with this. But that's what solidified, to just jump forward, that's what solidified me opening the nonprofit called With Love from Zusi. And it was to memorize him because I believe the world deserves to know him. Although I'm not a celebrity, I'm no famous human. I've been able to help many people, and I've been able to make great accomplishments in my life and find a beautiful path because of him. And in turn, I will be able to touch other people's lives because of them helping me. And so I believe that's the type of people we should be celebrating in our community. Fur baby, I don't care if it's a bird, fur baby, your mother, your auntie. We need to start lifting up our everyday heroes in life, right? Because they're the ones that are making change. And so that the nonprofit, it finally was perfect. I said it needed to be the right time. And it was the right time for me emotionally because I had the experience going through that trauma, specifically myself, and going through every journey that I possibly could have gone through, that good and bad and different, coming out on top. And so I knew that part of me was ready to be vulnerable, to be open, to be naked and unafraid. I mean, per se, what we called the interview was because that's how people can connect with you and believe in you. You have to be authentic and show every aspect of the situation and the meaning behind it. And when I lost Zeus, after I was able to get through some of just the everyday trauma of just being able to go to work and not break down, and once I got that emotional part of me getting back on point, so I didn't let that part break me. The drive was,
Yeah.
which was able to connect with the passion.
Absolutely.
And now I've been running wild with it.
Oh, I know.
As you know, I've been building the board, and as you know, we filed, so the board has solidified, and it'll take about a year, you know, because there is a lot, you know. Me and Bonsall are small business owners, as many people know. Owning a business is nothing like opening a nonprofit. It is a lot more work, and it's a more emotional because you are vowing to help others, strangers, frankly, people that you have no connection with.
Yeah.
But the difference between some and others, and not that it's not important what others are doing, I can connect with every single human that we help because I was them. I am them. I will continue to be that person because sexual assault is not something that you just get over. You adapt to it like you lose a loved one. You learn to adapt to that. And that, you know, that is the two big premises that created the nonprofit.
Can you tell me a little bit more about who exactly and how this nonprofit is going to help them? What are you going to do with this nonprofit to help?
So, obviously in nonprofits, there's a little bit of a branch. So you have a main mission, and I'll go over that right now. The mission that we're building and creating right now is going to really, really put a lot of light specifically on boys and men that have either been sexually assaulted, are going through the process as a young child that has just come out. Maybe the family doesn't quite know how to deal with the concepts of how do you deal with it when it comes to a boy versus a girl, or helping families understand the emotional responsibility behind that child, and some of the education behind it. Not all education comes from a college background or a degree. Some of the best advice from me personally that I've ever taken was from someone's personal experience, something that they went through, they endured, they figured out the tools to navigate and overcome it, and then they came up with the solution to fix the problem. I've always been able to relate with people more than people that, yes, although your degree is important and it's an incredible, and I admire counselors. I've had them half of my life. I've been in it. I've always personally been able to connect better with somebody that understood my pain because I was able to trust them differently. And that's for me. And so that's what really the mission is I want to be a beacon, a light, and a spokesperson, and create a table, a safe place for specifically boys and men. I've done a lot of research since doing this, and, you know, one of the number one characteristics in men when it comes to physical abuse, sexual and physical, towards their spouses, their children, stuff like that, is because of trauma themselves. But yet, they have been taught, you don't talk about it, you don't speak on it, it's not manly, it will embarrass the family, you know, you're over exaggerating, that doesn't happen to men, when it does. And statistically, the numbers are much higher. The only reason why we don't have an accurate number is because we are still teaching boys and men that we shouldn't talk about it at all. It's a whole different type of shame that we put on women when they went through it, although the shame was equally severe for women as well. It's men need to feel safe to talk about this, and boys, and start early, okay? And the insides and outsides of that, bringing light to a community that understands that emotional men are strong men. There's not weakness behind emotion. There's not weakness because a man cries or a man hugs too much or a man says, I love you 10 times a day, or the man that holds another man's back, hugs him when he's in pain, or just frankly, you hug your best friend. Straight, gay, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're hugging them because you're showing a human love, empathy, a desire that you see somebody going through something, or it could be a great day for them. But I hug me and Bonsell have a philosophy at the salon, and any client that will tell you this is not a lie, we do this. We hug you when you walk in the door, we hug you when you leave. And I don't care what your sexuality is, what your being is, whether you're a man, you're a female, you're trans, you're not non-binary, black, Asian, gay, straight. I know I'm missing a lot of ethnicities, but you all are included in that. That I see the human, and I really say that. I do see color. I do see gender. I do see all those things, as it's important for us to see. But I just love human, the human, and that's specifically for the mission. But it's really to bring light, and because I'm not emotional because I'm gay, and I'm not soft and sensitive because I'm gay. I don't cry a lot because I'm gay. I am all of those things because that's who Derek is. And if I was straight, if I was if my skin was a different color, if I spoke a different language, I would still be this human because that's who I was when I was born. And then my life influence and what I've been through in life created and molded that. This is who Derek is, though. This has nothing to do with my sexuality at all. And me being gay and also being sexually assaulted, being raped later on down in my life, those things didn't make me gay either. That was a part of my life. And it was a journey for me emotionally, but it had nothing to do with the journey. In fact, you would think I would hate them because of what I had been through, right? So, but yeah, and then from there, bringing in Zusi is that my end goal, my ultimate goal, and this is a 10-year plan. I would like to eventually own a building and a sanctuary. That yes, we will have a lot of pugs, a lot of Frenchies, specifically for Zeus because their characters are so great when it comes to emotion and bonding. They can be maniacs, but when it comes to a human, there's a sensitiveness in a pug that when a human is in need and they have such depth of pain, there's something about them. Rosa, for example, and I'm going to let them out in a minute, they were eating. She has really become a therapy dog since Zeus. And she took on that. She's half pug, half Frenchie. And and I've heard the same stories from other owners. So the ultimate goal is to create a sanctuary where kids and men and all people, we're not just going to help men and boys, young boys, but that is definitely our focus because it's a much needed focus, and we need to have a mission that people can support. You know, you have to have one big mission, one big cause, so people can get on board with that. But we would never turn anybody away that came to the door that had trauma specific to that, especially because again, we love humans above everything, and any human that needs help, of course. You know, if we can't, we'll be there. But working with counselors, psychologists, doctors, and that's why I say it's a 10-year because these are relationships that the nonprofit has to build, that they have to connect, and we got to make those bonds in that community. But I'd love to have a building with animals and people like me, people like my husband that have gone through that journey, and the life that coincide and mix with counselors and psychologists and doctors, that kids and them can come for therapy sessions and play times and have therapy with animals. And when we have specific kids and adults that bonds in a special way with one of the animals, that feel that we can see it's going to do what it did for me. At that point, we will set up them with an animal trainer and coincide that with counselors, and we will get them their very own puppy, and that will be built to become their own Zusi, to help them through that. And so people can see more frankly, you know, and we've already seen how animals heal, right? We've seen that in veterans. We've seen it in inmates, prisoners, which I find so admirable and beautiful because we don't give a lot of people that have gotten in trouble enough empathy as well. Because most of them have been through great pain and they're humans too. And a lot of prisons now have programs to where they train animals meals for veterans. And you've heard many stories to where inmates will have been healed through that. Although it's sad and it's hurtful to take that animal from them because that training time is done. That love that they received could have been some of the most love that some of those inmates have experienced ever in their life. Yeah. Right? Think about that.
Yeah.
So the change that created for them, and all because of unconditional love. And that's a word I'm going to say many times tonight, because unconditional love is the purest form of healing, right? Yeah. So that's really the main mission. And then from there, hopefully we flourish and we branch out into other branches of the nonprofit and grow into other adaptations of what we can do to change that. Yeah. And change the narrative that sitting like this and talking about something so deep can be okay. So yeah.
So we've talked a lot about love, and I have a little note here. I just want to know what love means to you. What does love look like to you in the purest form?
I think it's in action. My husband is the video man. I should tell him doing this. I think has that been, have people been able to
everybody's watching it, they're loving it,
it's okay.
they're singing vibes.
Okay.
It will be on landscape mode once we end it and we upload it again. So everything's fine.
Okay. And they can hear
it's beautiful.
Everybody can hear it. Okay.
Mama just reached out and she said something really beautiful.
Okay.
Your mother.
Yeah. So sorry guys. I just want to make sure everybody can hear it. So love. Okay, so girl, we're trying to do this in an hour. Sorry, folks, it's gonna be late. Love. Okay, so I'm gonna quote a part of Moulin Rouge when they say, there's a scene where they say, love is all you need. All you need is love, right? The word basis is so easy to say, but yet it's so hard to accomplish. You know, I'm going to go a little deep here because I just, and this may answer some other questions, Carmen, so I do apologize. You know, love changes too and is redefined in your life. Although I will be 39, I have many people, my mom, that also just mentioned, Gail, my dad, Coco, my aunties in my life, friends in my life, which I know we'll get to some friends later, but I've learned that what I thought love was at one point, I thought it was something different at another point, and then eventually I realized that love is always there. It's changing and adapting to that, because you can also lose love, lose the feeling of it, lose resentment and loss. Can create such a deep hole. I tell some people at one point in my life, I would rather have been hit every day and felt some authentic love at some point in my life. But now when I look back at it, right, now I would take that part, I would take those words back because I learned how to love better myself as well. I learned to model and adapt my way of loving based on what I've learned from other people. My parents aren't perfect. My friends aren't perfect. I've been hurt. I have been the person that's hurt people. But love, to finally answer your question, to get there, and this is why I had to explain that, because unconditional love to me is very important. Even if you're not in my life, I will continue to love you. I will give you energy. I will send you positivity. I will definitely cut you out when it's not good for me, because I've also learned that how important your self-worth is, and that putting yourself ahead does not make you a selfish person when you're a good person. It just means that if that human's not willing to accept your love, you can't suck yourself dry to do that either. That's unhealthy, because then I have nothing to give those around me that do deserve that love. But I walk in a path. So if I was to define love, it would be giving everybody the chance to be loved. And what I mean by that is ask the why. And I told you about this earlier when we were talking. I recently saw a beautiful thing, and I encourage everybody to go watch it. Taraji P. Henson did an interview on Breakfast Club, and she was talking about straw and the new movie she's in, and the depths of what people, when they break, what it looks like, and how simple kindness and just basic love of a human can change their life. Because I've been that Taraji character a couple times in my life. Moments that there will never be a time that I can relive some of that trauma, and I won't get emotional because it's there. It will always be there. And I've chosen to take that pain and turn it into courageous love, because an unconditional love. Because although I can be direct, I can speak how I feel. I will never come up to you, no matter what your path of walk has been. I will always ask you the why. Why did you go through that? Why did you have those issues? I will never judge you on what paper says, or a background, criminal background maybe, or did you formerly do drugs? Were you a drug addict? Are you a drug addict? The premises in that is I don't sit here. It's not my place to judge you. As long as you know how to love me and have empathy for humans and people around you, and you love others, I'm there for you. And I'm not the type of person to judge. And that is the first lesson for me on loving somebody. It's so easy. It makes me cry, and it upsets me, because we use so much energy to hurt each other. And it creates so much, it takes so much more energy from you to harm somebody. Love is so easy. It's so selfless. It's so self-guided. There's not a wrong path you can go on, because even if you loving somebody selflessly puts you in harm's way, you've still done the right thing, and you come out stronger because of what you've been through. When you harbor so much anger and hate towards people for something that they can't change, or their past, or something that frankly has not affected you at all in your life, so why would you ever judge that? You haven't even personally had to go through what that person went. It had nothing to do with you. They're showing who they are to you right then and now, and that's where that love deserves to be given. No, nothing negative should be spewed from that, because you're harming somebody else. How can you say you're a good person and that you're a lovely human, and that, I have empathy for people? Well, you have to have that for every person. You can't just have that for the pastor on the street, or the socialite that you follow on TikTok or Instagram, or the billionaire that donated $1 million to World Hunger. You can't just put those people on pedestals and love them. You know what I mean? Because they've created a narrative that they want you to believe. Because they can control that, right? And then the first time we hear a negative thing about a human or that person, right, we're so quick to turn our backs. And I've met a lot of beautiful people in my life that take on that and say, I love this human, I love this person, I love who they are, I love what they do, but then you'll criticize, harm, and hurt the other person down the street that is, and again, we're being transparent, that is on food stamps or doesn't have insurance, and it gets help from the state, or a single mother of 4 that has been divorced twice, and is raising their children the best way they know how, or a drug addict that was clean for 10 years and relapsed. The fact is that they're human, and how are you a good person if you are putting that judgment on so vigorously and so direct? It's hurtful and it's harmful. There's a way to speak your opinion and your truth by showing empathy and compassion for those around you, and seeing that Bonsell says this all the time, and I've learned some of this from him too, because I'm flawed and I've judged. Bonsell says to me, honey, there's good in everything, and then there's evil, right? Evil is something you can't fix that, but there's nothing to fix that, and although it's rare, it's seen. Bonsell is very spiritual. I've been working on spirituality. But he is right on that. He is right on the aspect that there is good in people, but we have to allow each other to accept the goodness in that human. And and love is universal to me. Love needs to stop. That's why I said for me, love is a very in-depth word for me in my life. Love is about loyalty, dedication, perseverance, surviving, being a survivor for those that can't survive themselves just yet, taking them to that place to survive, being strong-willed, standing up for yourself because you're educating others to do the same, and that's love. And letting people know I love myself, and you will not harm me, and you will not harm those around me that may not be able to speak for themselves because I'm strong enough to protect them too. And protection is love. Anger is love. Anger comes from loving something. That's why you're angry. And sometimes that's because somebody hurt you, because you have enough love for yourself that you're angry. Because how dare you do that to me? I'm a beautiful person. I don't deserve that. And I will not accept it.
Yeah.
Which is where my vocal comes from. I've learned to be very vocal in that. And I will always defend those that aren't seen. Because I wasn't seen for many years of my life. But people started seeing me because I saw myself. And I loved myself. So love for me and for most is a very complicated word. But the premises is so easy, right? Because it's so easy to just, the word love, the action and what love means is so easy. It's natural. It's organic. It's unconditional. Love should be unconditional. The premise of my nonprofit, unconditional love. With love from Zeusy, it's unconditional. There's nothing nor an experience with Zeus that anybody could say, or I could say that ever was unconditional. And if my fur baby can do that, a human can do it. And there's no excuses to it. We create excuses because the excuse gives you permission to think that you're right for doing wrong. It's that simple. And we can't be those people anymore. We cannot. We are not that type of community. I've seen change. I've lived through horrible things. I've known family and relatives that have gone through worse things than I've gone through, and every time we've seen the change. How can we make change and then go back?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. And we aren't those type of people. And we need to do better to one another.
Absolutely.
It's important.
It is. It is very important.
So that's what love is.
So back to Zeus a little bit. Can you, for anybody who didn't personally know, who never met him, can you tell us just a little bit more about him and his spirit, quirks, funny stories? I know you said he helped you a little bit with dating. Can you give us
Yeah, so
he helped you
only a couple people know this story, but I was not the best in choosing life partners, and again, that goes back from trauma and not having self-love. And Zeus used to do this thing. And again, I want to go back that Zeus endured trauma just as well as I did through some of these abusive relationships as well, aside from my other trauma. He personally had dealt with some abuse through lovers and partners of mine. So again, when I say a journey and a walk through life side by side, it was really very like that. And I remember Zeus started doing this consistent thing where when I would date somebody, and you go on a date, I never was the type of person to sleep around. I'm very proud to say I've never had a one-night stand. Although I support people in it moments, I wonder if I should have had that streak. But Zeus would do this thing to where when I would date people, he would fart on them all night long. And trust me, if you knew Zeus, there was one thing about him that was not the prettiest. But our babies, if you open enough, they will communicate. And I mean that, although it's funny, I mean it in a serious way, because that was his way of saying, hey, we need to have a conversation about this person as your best friend, blah, blah, blah. He was instant and quick about it. Gas,
Like
the
this
person
one.
would complain, they'd bitch about my dog, excuse my language, but they would. And it was an instant cutoff for me because anything, I mean, you could look at Zeus the wrong way, and for me, you could punch me at the time and I probably would have stayed with that because of my self-worth. But if you came for my child, my partner, my love, my everything, that was it for me. I mean, that was really and I don't know why. At the time, I didn't know why. Now I do. But so he would do that all the time, and I would end up breaking or not talking to him anymore because that would be his way of saying you're about to get another crazy person. We're about to go through another really, really long road. Please don't do this again, please. And I listened.
Yeah. Animals are the best judges
Just
of
as well as
character.
we say we need to listen to our humans and those that we love, even though we never do, right? And then we give that advice to the person younger than us, and we chuckle because we're like, wow, I didn't listen to this advice when I was younger, so they're not. And I did. And then Boncel. So just because you brought that up. Boncel stayed over. It was after a couple of dates. I think we had 2 dates, and then he stayed the night. And he had come over, and Zeus was there, and I was very if you ever see Boncel or anybody that's watching this season, ask him the story because it is even funnier when he says it. And he sits on the bed, and we're getting ready to go to bed, and Zeus cuddled up on the pillow next to me, and I had a queen size bed at the time, and it was freezing because I like my room freezing like ice box. And Boncel went to lay down, and I don't remember exactly how he did, but he said something like, Zeusy, excuse me, honey, like something cute. And I said, don't do that, really loud to him. And he said, what? I said, don't move my dog. And he said, excuse me? And I was like, he can stay right there. You can lay like around him, like put your head around him. And
no, it was like nothing to lay on.
Oh, and there literally, he just said it. There was nothing for him to lay on, like other than just the bed itself. And I literally, with all seriousness, with straight conviction, like he literally was like, calm down. And I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but that's where he's laying. You're not moving. And again, he said, and this is where my husband's quite hilarious, because he said, clearly, this has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you have a reason for this. So, and that was actually one of his first wins with me. He was the first and only person to not get on me about the situation. Eventually, Zeus did move on his own.
No, we moved it over.
Oh, sorry.
You had a moment.
I had a moment.
You
I
let
did.
Zeus get in the middle.
I did eventually move. Yeah, I did eventually move him over, and it was organic. But that reaction for me was so aggressive, and I always tell him that he was the first person Zeus didn't fart all night on. So I knew that he was a keeper at that point. And I tell that story all the time, to people that I really love, that when I talk about Zeus, because it was such an important time in my life. Because for me, he was telling me that, Boncel's it. And so that was a pretty beautiful moment for me. And then of course, as everybody knows now, that rest was history. We got engaged 9 months later and got married, and we just celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary. Been together almost 10 years. And
9 years.
And Zeus got to also, on top of going through all that journey with me, he got to go through that journey with me and Boncel. I mean, when we didn't really have much, literally, as my dad always says, didn't have a pot to piss in, And then as we built our business, our name, our brand, we moved into a bigger home. We, although we're not rich, we don't live in luxury, we are happy. I can honestly say that. All the stresses aside, everything that me and Boncel just deal with about life, as everybody does, in our community right now, the people that are like us, like I told you, people that are like us, our local heroes, people just trying to survive and do the best they can with themselves, their families, and those they love. We've been blessed. Very blessed. To find one love the way that I found Zeus was a miracle for me. But then to find Boncel, to have 2 miracles of love when you felt for so long that you didn't deserve that, or you weren't good enough for that, or you weren't going to mount to that, or because you're not successful enough, you'll never find somebody good enough for you, or you'll never find somebody that will know how to love the way you love. And I met my match. And sometimes I think falling in love when you're not loved's even harder than I do, which is, and can be hard to believe, but it's true. And anybody that knows him knows that, which I think is why, even though we have because we are known, we're human, we are married, we have financial stresses, emotional stresses, but what makes a beautiful bond, right, is walking the path together no matter how hard it is. I got that with Zeus, and I got that with my husband. And we do it together. And we take turns sometimes when one person needs to do it more than the other. So, again, if that answers your question, I think that, yeah.
This was a great judge of character.
He was. And again, I implore people to listen to your fur babies more. They will talk to you and they will tell you. And they will guide you.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Could you, I think we already have quite a bit, but if there's anything that you haven't touched on this topic, can you explain a little bit more about the power behind human and fur baby relationships and the lessons you can really learn from them?
Excuse me. I'm not a big drinker. Honestly, I pretty much had already talked that, answered that question. But just to reiterate for that real quick, so we can move on, I know you have other questions, is just listen to them and love them. And remember, how would you treat your child? How should you treat your child? Because I know that some children, as I wouldn't have a nonprofit or have a reason to do that if children weren't victimized. But if you treat your child the way it's meant to be treated, why would you not treat your animal any differently? They grow and they mold based on how you teach them, how you love them. Just like a child does. Showing them love and empathy. If you have a dog that's aggressive or violent, it's no different than a kid that's 7, 8 years old, biting, pinching, aggressive. It's because it's coming from something. Pain. Right? So the next time that you put your dog outside too long, or they get upset and you throw them in a room and lock them away, or you get rid of them because they're pooping or peeing in the house and it's driving you crazy. Trust me, our second love for baby Stuart has done it, and we've gone through that journey. Would you put your child out like that? And your child will give you more help than your fur baby will. So just remember that too. And I mean that is a joke, but literally,
because they can talk back.
Humans are more complicated.
Yeah.
Case in point too, why we have adopted the name of fur angels and earth angels, because Zeus was that for me. And we have to do better with our babies and our fur babies. And yes, part of this mission of this nonprofit is to be fighting for the rights of those animals, because they create love in a way that we can't fathom and understand. Our brains have not even been unlocked yet to the way they love naturally and organically everything. And that deserves to be treated as such.
Yeah. So one of my last questions that I have here, as a man who has been sexually abused, why do you feel that society is so comfortable talking about women's abuse versus men's when they're equal, if not more, for men statistically? Why do you feel that has become a societal norm?
I think, and please remember, this is an opinion, and I'm going to say this directly to you guys. This is my opinion and my authentic way of breaking this down from a personal experience. I think statistically, if you look it up, it is proven that more girls and women are sexually and physically abused. But we've also had a more accurate number of that because we have brought it to the table. And we have so many movements over the years for women and girls. And it is and has been and was and will continue to be extremely important. But I sometimes feel that we we protect women in a way because of being maternal too, right? We used to say women are too emotional. That was always a thing. Women are too emotional. They can't handle things because it's too emotional. When in fact, I've always believed the different. My idols have been women because I think their emotion, their drive of protection of their families, their children, their husband, their lovers, their family, just women have an internal instinct of compassion and empathy that is very violent. And I think that it was important to create a space at the table and create a voice and educate men and boys on that standpoint of, guys, this isn't a weakness of a woman. This is strength, and it's not something to be taken advantage of. It's not something to be treated as a material possession, because they are equal to you because, like I said earlier, it's simple. They're human. They're human. Aside from their what they have underneath their pants or on their chest or what they feel emotionally inside, at the end of the day, they are leaders for us. They're the first to bring us into the world. They are to love us till we're not here anymore. Or they are not here, and they're, of course, depending on what you believe in, they love you there and after. But my point in that is, we knew it was important to create a page for women and girls to educate them, to know their self-worth, to know what the word no means. As one of my best friends, Allison, says, the word no is simply no. There is no explanation. It's a full sentence. And we've done amazing, and we've had incredible female and male now trailblazers that have spoken on that. And because of that, we have people being criminalized, put in jail as justly deserved because we've created that space. But we've also vilified many men without asking, but I say the drowsy defensive quote, the why, right? I'm not defending what they've done. And when you've done something, you got to deal with your consequence. I have done it proudly. You've done it for things you've done in your life. I'm sure everybody in their own way has had to deal with the consequences. But although they've done something wrong, or the men that have harmed women, or men that have harmed other men, or this or that, there's also victims that are just trying to survive, that we have not created a platform for them. And anybody who knows somebody that has gone through it can probably agree with me right in this moment that 9 times out of 10, a violent man or teen boy, or whether they have done sexual or physical assault at some point in their life, it is proven that 9 out of 10 have been victimized by physical or sexual assault themselves. And internalizing that, they've been told that they cannot deal with it. You don't talk about it. It's not masculine. It makes you weak. You are not strong. How can you provide for your family? How can you do this? It is private. And then in some communities, it could be, and I feel I can say this, and some people may not believe it, or feel, but my husband, I feel, it would give me permission to speak on this. For example, Black communities, men in Black communities, it is 10 times worse. It angers families even when it's brought up, when it comes to boys and men and their families. That has to change. That's a huge thing for Von Self that I know I can speak for him, that he believes in, that we've had this conversation, that, in his community, that does happen a lot of times, that Black boys and men, it's a different environment to speak on. I'm giving examples because my husband had been through this journey too. And he's had that experience. And so I just think that in general, the reason why I'm bringing up specific communities is because it's how we're taught, how we're educated within those communities. I was raised in a very country, very Yankee, and I hate to say that, it's just the truth, a Yankee environment where I did not fit in at all. And on top of that, I had to be a man. I had to be masculine. I couldn't show emotion. I couldn't have a safe outlet who I was. So what did I do? When you're making me hold it all in, what happens? It all comes out. Behavior issues, anger issues, being put in and out of placements because my parents were told this is the only way to help him. My parents didn't know any better. Which again, going back to having, as I've matured, I've understood some of that resentment that I had against my parents. You know, although they weren't perfect as I wasn't perfect, these are things that professionals were telling them to do.
Yeah.
I was constantly being victimized and being punished for something that I did nothing wrong.
It happened to you.
It happened to me, but I was being treated as if I was a criminal within myself. So what do I start to do? I start to think as me, right? I start to think as a person that's a bad behavior child, because that's the only way I'm being seen. Because in every other way, I'm being told to no. Or the counselors will deal with it. They have no clue what I was feeling or going through. How could they understand what a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, after almost 3 years of molestation, okay, severe trauma, was going to tell me how to fix that? Because they couldn't feel that in. You know what I mean? And I just want to bring love and light to men, and also for men to say, hey, look, buddy, you got a safe place.
You have a seat at the table.
You have a seat at the table to talk. And guess what? There's somebody else across that seat with you that loves you and that sees you. And I don't care if you've never gotten in trouble. I don't care if you've had aggravated assault. I don't care. If you're coming to this table wanting to change or wanting to be a better person, then I see you. I see you for that, because those are the people that need to be seen, because if you show them love like me, they will be some of the greatest people in our community, because they will understand pain, empathy, and have a desire to love, to help others, so they don't feel that pain. But we need to do better for the boys and the men in our community and lift them up too. For two people in any relationship, or to create and build families in life, it takes two. And again, we divide and we create divisions and we put labels on things, right, Carmen? So for me, it's that simple. Yes, that is a man and that is a woman, but they are both humans and they both deserve to be loved and they both to be seen at the table, and we need to come together equally and see each other equally. Period. It's not that hard, and if you're not willing to come to the table like that, then you're just not a good human. It's not the color of your skin or your gender or man or female. If you're not willing to love a stranger next to you, then you need to get help yourself. And I solely mean that, because it's not 9 times out of 10, it's not the person that you have the problem with. That's the problem. When it comes to them trying to show you love, it's your insecurities. And that's where we can come in to help you heal from those insecurities. But sexual assault is important. It is severe. It changes a person's life, specifically a child, and I'm sure there may be questions. I know we got to get to the questions.
I think
so. But for the sexual assault, for me, and as a whole, the best way I can explain it is when that has happened to a child, especially, it changes them. They are no longer the boy or girl that you knew. They have changed in the moment, and they have changed more once it's out. Because now they see everybody else in pain around them that they love. And when you have a child that's so innocent, it authentically creates so much pain for them, because they don't understand. They just feel like, what did I do? There's so much self-guilt involved with the child, because they're so immature, they're so young, they're so innocent. They don't understand the grasp and the severity of that pain. And because of that, they take on so much more pain. Because they don't know how to separate that. They see their parents, their sisters, their brothers, and then they see, okay, now I have behavior problems, and now I feel they hate me. I don't know what to do. I've been a messy human since I can remember. And it all stemmed from most things not being understood, not being seen, believed, and the empathy and compassion goes away for that person eventually. That's when they need it the most. They need to be heard, believed. when you have a child come to you, whether they have behavior problems or not, and they come to you with vulnerability and open honesty, hear them and listen to them and believe them. I don't care how many times they've lied to you about stupid things or they stole from a store because, again, when people are molested and abused, that's a number one thing that you see. You see misbehavior, you see violence, emotional, yelling, aggression, lying, you see stealing. And you know why? Why do you think that is? Why do you feel that what is one common denominator between the two? Why that's such a common thing that we see in people that have been sexually abused? Specifically in men, actually more to that as well.
First thing that comes to my mind is they have no other outlet.
Outlet and control. When a child has that done to them, everything is stripped from them, naked. They've had all their control taken, their innocence taken. There's nothing that possesses them that they understand who they are. And to be a child, can you imagine how scary that is? Think about that. It'd be like being put, if you're watching a sci-fi movie and you're dropped in a black hole and there's nothing else around, although you hear noises and voices, you don't see anything. You literally are walking through life in a haze. And you do it as you mature, too. You have to hear them. You have to hear them. And if you love them enough, you'll know when they're telling the truth. Because your body's going to tell you to believe them. And that's really it. And, of course, there's so much more. And I really want people to take this journey with us. This is going to be something I want to do once a month. With Carmen, and we're going to bring in some other people every month to talk about life experiences on here. So please tune in. I know I've been looking at you guys with Carmen, and we will talk about more in depth, more details, more conversations about this at the table, because again, I want to normalize it. I want to be there in every way I can. I want to talk about the journey. And maybe next month we can make that another topic about the journey, the court hearings, the proceedings. People forget when we just hear sexual assault, our minds don't take us to the journey that they have to go through. The details, the changes in life, the dynamics in their families, their extended families, their relationships. There's so much to dive into this. But please, 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 please just, I hope everybody does themselves a favor and really follow this journey, because I really do just want to help. My husband wants to help, and we want to be a representation in our community. What I'm calling local heroes. I want to be a local hero to my community, and I want to help as many people as we can, and I want to educate people to stand up for others and start looking up and admiring people in your community. They don't always have to be A-listers or artists or celebrities. So do we have any questions?
I think that's about it for what I have. So if you have any last remarks you'd like to make, and then if anyone watching has any questions, you can go ahead and comment them.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I can answer a couple before we're done. I know it was a little while. We'll give it a couple minutes. But no, while you're looking,
If there's anything else.
Yeah, I really have nothing else to say other than, please, 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 anybody who's watching and share, Legendary is August 23rd. We are launching the official nonprofit. We have an incredible, big production that we are doing to launch that nonprofit to you guys. So you guys will be the first to see some incredible stuff that's going on with that. Ticket sales starting tonight will be changed, and there'll be 25% off for, I believe, Carmen, it's for a week, right? Were we doing a week or just the day? We decided on the whole week, right? This week? Yep. So starting tomorrow so it'll be 5 days. You guys can go on and get your tickets. The discount will already be applied, so you can just go on and purchase, or you can stop into the salon to get your general admission or your all-access VIP pass. Those of you that were at the show last year, please remember that there is drinking allowed in the theater this year. So that's a big thing. I think we have a question.
Is there, this is from Amy Jacobson. Is there a website for the foundation yet?
So for the nonprofit, not yet. It is being worked on. As I said, there's a lot of moving parts to this. We've just done the board. We are raising money right now to start the fund. But yes, we have already started the implements of the website, and the website is being built. It is not finished yet, but it will be available to be seen, and you will be able to view it and go to the website at the latest at the launch of the show. So we're really, really excited about that as well. Amy, thank you for that question.
Another question. What kind of performers this year are we going to expect?
Okay. The performers this year, so we have Rayshawn Montrese. For anybody that wants to do, I'm going to give a quick synopsis because there's a lot for the event. First, go to Facebook, type in Legendary Queens 2025. There will be highlights and videos of all the entertainers for you guys to experience. But real quick, we have Coco Van Cartier, who was here last year. She's a former Miss Continental Plus, former Miss Renaissance, and a legend in hair and makeup and dressing within the drag and female impersonation community with pageantry. We have Selena D'Angelo from Las Vegas. She is also very known in the community. Rayshawn Montrese. He is a prince and he's a professional Prince and Michael Jackson impersonator. You can also find him on Scary Movie 3. He played Michael Jackson on the comedy Scary Movie 3. We have Godfrey Abdulu, who is currently Miss Florida FI. You can look her up. She's incredible. Me and Bonceller headlining as we did last year. We will be showcasing 4 big, massive productions for you guys this year. We also have Aubrey, who will be in one of the after party VIP rooms. She will be singing jazz. We have Carolyn Smith and Katie Reist Lavelle, who will be doing an incredible hour rendition version of Wicked production. And they are local singers and have background in dancing as well, so that'll be a big production. And then we have local dancers from all over. We have some colleges, some professionals that will all be showcasing all throughout the night in the production performances, along with other special guests. So it is a show this year not to miss. I promise you, if you have hesitated and you've heard good things, I promise you it will be 10 times what the expectation is. We have put a lot of time, money, heart, soul, tears into this year. So I really do. Please, if anything, if you want to promote this cause, show up.
Yeah.
That's the best way to support. Show up. I'm not asking thousands of dollars of donations or anything. Just show up and be a face and show the community that you support, love, and energy in. And that's what it's about in creating art for.
Good entertainment.
And entertainment like you haven't seen. It's the truth. And just watch the trailers to show that. So I hope that answers your question. Any other? Do you have any other questions?
I think that is it for this evening. I'm sure people will be tagging and posting. And
if anyone has any questions after watching this live back tomorrow, this week, leave them in the comments.
And we can try and reach out. And then next month, when we do our another live, we'll have a guest, another special guest that will come in. And we will talk. We can do some follow-up questions as well. I just want to end real quick again by thanking Carmen so much for doing this for me. I really appreciate it. And it gave me a comfortable platform to start this so I could feel confident about what I'm doing. And so thank you for that, seeing me and seeing this. It means the world to me. But to those of you that are watching, I want to thank everybody that's tuned in. I want to thank everybody on mine and Boncel's journey so far. There's too many to announce, so you know if I'm saying this that it goes to you. To my parents, Coco, my mom, my dad, Gail, and my dad, Billy, some of my best friends to Brittany, Allison, Katie, but so many. Sorry, I just don't have enough time to name everybody, but from me and from my heart, I love you. Hug one another, love one another, be there for each other.
Acknowledge a stranger.
Help a stranger, hug a stranger.
Say hello.
Okay. You never know when somebody needs it. And normally when your heart tells you to do it, it's because that person needs it right then and there in that moment. Don't hesitate. That's how we make change. loving each other. You do not need to do insane acts of kindness to just love. Unconditional love is extremely easy. So with that, hugs. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you guys next month. Bye.